Hey, good people. Arthur Morris here. I hope all is well. In this video, we are going to look at factoring a quadratic with the leading coefficient of 1. So there are a few different ways that you can factor these quadratic or quadratic expressions or trinomials here. I'm going to go through the AC method, and there's a shortcut that I'll show you as well when the leading coefficient is 1. But the AC method, and make sure you look this up in your textbook or online, the AC method is a method that we can use to factor any of the trinomials that can be factored. And the way you start off with the AC method is the first thing you look for a greatest common factor in all of your terms. So I don't have a common factor in all three of my terms. The next thing I do is I come out to the side, and it's called the AC method because of the general form here of this quadratic expression ax squared plus bx plus c. The first step is to multiply the leading coefficient times that last term there. So to multiply 1 in this case times 26 out to the side, which equals 26. Now we want to find factors of 26, or a couple of numbers I multiply to get 26 that add up to be the middle number. So that gives me a sum of the middle number, which in this case is 15, negative 15. So I need to find a pair of numbers that I multiply to get positive 26. Now the only way you can multiply to get a positive number is either multiplying two positive numbers or two negative numbers. So if my sum here has to be negative, then I know that I have to multiply two negative numbers. Okay, so let's go through the factors of 26. So 1 and 26, negative 1 and negative 26, but that adds up. Negative 1 plus negative 26 is negative 27, so that doesn't work. 2 will go into 26 13 times, or 26 divided by 2 is 13. So 26 divided by 2 is 13, so 2 times 13 is 26. However, I know they both have to be negative in order for my sum to be correct. So negative 2 plus negative 13 is negative 15. So negative 2 and negative 13, those are the factors that I need. Okay, so once we find those factors, we come back over to our problem and we rewrite the expression, changing the middle term using those two factors that we just found. So the x squared will stay like it is. The negative 15x, I'm going to write that as negative 2x minus 13x. And the negative 2 and negative 13 come from those factors we just found over here on the right. And then plus 26. Now the whole reason we do that is so that we will have 4 terms. And if you go back to the previous video, we said when we have 4 terms, we factor by grouping. So now this is set up to where I can factor this by grouping. So remember, on this step, we always have a plus in between the two parentheses. All right, after I make my 2 groups, I need to factor out the GCF from each group. So x squared and 2x, the GCF is x. Since I have a negative on this third term there, I know I need, more than likely I need to factor out a negative number to make my signs match up. So I'm going to, for 13 and 26, I'm going to factor out a negative 13. So that makes positive x, and then positive divided by negative makes negative, so minus 2. All right, and the final step for factoring by grouping is to factor out the common binomial, which in this case is x minus 2. And then write those leftovers in the parentheses together, x minus 13. Now, here's the shortcut. You should still go ahead and start off the AC method like we did. 1 times 26 is 26. Find your factors that gives you a sum or adds up to be the middle number. Two numbers that multiply together get 26 that also add up to be negative 15, which we found were negative 2 and negative 13. Now, if you have an understood 1 in front of your x squared like we do here, we don't have to go through this entire splitting up and grouping method. All we have to do is to take those two factors, bring them down, create two binomials. So you see the x and x here. We split that up from the x squared, so that's your x and x, and then the negative 2 and negative 13. So x minus 2, x minus 13. And that only works if we have the understood 1 in front of x squared. Okay, let's look at another one. All right, so here we have z squared minus z, or plus 1z minus 12. All right, so I have an understood 1 and 1 in front in the middle number, middle term as well. So my AC method, I have 1, remember that's A and that's C, times negative 12. So I want to find factors of negative 12. That gives me a sum of the middle term, the middle coefficient, which is positive 1. Okay, now the only way that we can multiply to get a negative number is a positive and a negative. Now I know I need my sum to be positive, therefore the number with the larger absolute value should be positive as well. So let's look at the factors of 12. We know that 1 times 12 is 12, so negative 1 plus 12 is negative, or is positive 11. So that doesn't work. 2 will go into 12. 12 divided by 2 is 6. So negative 2 plus 6 is positive 4. So that pair doesn't work. 3 will go into 12. 12 divided by 3 is 4. So negative 3 and positive 4. Negative 3 plus 4 is positive 1. That's what we were looking for. So those are the two numbers that we will use. Now again, you don't have to go through the entire AC method on this particular problem because we have the understood 1 in front of z squared. So I know that my answer, I'm going to go ahead and write the answer out and still practice the AC method just for practice again. You see I have the z squared here, so I'm going to make two sets of parentheses. I'm going to split the z squared here and here, and then I have the negative 3 and 4, so negative 3, positive 4. And if I were to multiply that back out using my distributive property or FOIL or whatever you use, you should get z squared plus z minus 12. Now for practice sake, let's go ahead and go through the entire AC method. So I'm going to split up the middle term, the positive 1. I'm going to say plus 4. Let's see, we have, doesn't matter, but minus 3z plus 4z, and the negative 3 and positive 4 come from those two factors we just found, and then minus 12. So now I have 4 terms. 4 terms factored by grouping. All right, and now the GCF out of each group. So z squared and 3z, the greatest common factor is z. So it gives us z minus 3 in the first parentheses. 4z minus 12, the greatest common factor is 4. So if I divide those by 4, it gives us z minus 3 in parentheses, which is what we want, the same thing in both sets of parentheses. And then find the common binomial, factor out the common binomial, which is z minus 3. And then z plus 4 in the other parentheses. And as you can see, it's the same thing that we got above up here. So again, if you have that understood 1 in front of the leading as your leading coefficient, then you don't have to use the entire AC method. You can just factor like I showed you, use that shortcut that I showed you there. Alrighty, let's look at one more. Alright, so here we have y squared plus 14y plus 33. I understood 1. So I'm going to come out to the side. 1 times 33. The first coefficient times that last number there equals 33. And before I do that, we need to always make sure, check to see if you have a common factor all the way across, which we don't. All right, I need to find factors of 33 that gives me a sum of my middle coefficient, which is positive 14. All right, so go through your factors. We know that 1 times 33 is 33. First of all, look at this. I see that 33 is positive, so I know that I either have to have 2 positives or 2 negative numbers. Since I'm trying to get a sum of a number that's positive, that tells me that I should have 2 positive factors. So 1 plus 33 is 33. That gives us 34 if we add those together. 2 won't go into 33, but 3 will. 33 divided by 3 is 11. If I add those together, that gives me 14. That's what we were looking for. So I'm going to use the numbers 3 and 11. Since I have the understood 1 in front of y squared as my leading coefficient, I'm not going through the AC method this time. I'm going to create 2 sets of parentheses. I'm going to split up that first term, the y squared, in the first place of each parentheses. Y times y is y squared. And then I'm going to use the 2 factors that I found to write at the end. Plus 3, plus 11. Positive 3, positive 11. And that's it. Alrighty, good people. I hope you found this video to be helpful. See you on the next one.